Okay, this problem tells us to solve by factoring, and the first thing that you want to notice is that this a value, or this coefficient on the squared term, is not equal to 1. That's a little bit unfortunate because our factoring is much easier when a equals 1. So when our a value isn't 1 and we want to factor this trinomial, we have a couple of ways to do it. We could use kind of a guess and check technique. I like that technique, but it doesn't always work out very well, especially if you're not sure that this thing can even factor. So a technique that is always going to work is multiplying our a value times our c value. In this case, that would be 2 times 7, which is 14. And then we can start writing down factors of 14. And what we're looking for is we're looking for that one pair of numbers that adds up to our b value, in this case, -9. So -2 and -7 add up to our b value of -9. So we're going to use those two numbers to complete this factoring problem. What we do is we actually copy down the first term and the last term, and we replace the -9m with a -2m minus 7m. You could have replaced this in any order. You could have put the -7 here and the -2 here, and this problem would work out just fine. But ultimately, we've taken -9m and we've rewritten it as -2m minus 7m. Now, what we're going to do is factor by grouping. You'll notice that from these first two terms, we can factor a 2 and an m out. If we do that, we're going to be left with an m minus 1 from our first two terms. Our third term is negative, and that always means we're going to factor a negative out from our second group. And you can notice that we can take a -7 out of each of these terms. If we do that, again, we're left with an m minus 1. Now, if we've done everything correctly, we should get the same factor here and here. Notice we have an m minus 1 on each of these two terms. What we can do with that is then factor that m minus 1 out of each of those two terms. When we take that m minus 1 factor out of this first term, we're just left with a 2m. When we take the m minus 1 factor out of this second term, we're just left with a -7, and that is how we factor a trinomial that has an a value that is not 1. Okay, now to finish this problem up, it's pretty quick. We have two factors that are multiplied by each other set equal to 0, so we can split this problem up into two pieces. We have m minus 1 equals 0 and 2m minus 7 equals 0. The first term is going to give us m equals 1, and the second term is going to give us the answer m equals 7/2. We got that by adding 7 to both sides and then dividing by 2. So we have two solutions for this particular quadratic equation. We solved it using factoring. If you decided to solve this thing using the quadratic formula or completing the square, and everything went right, you should get the exact same two answers. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's try out a different problem.